Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Hey guys.
Welcome back, guys. Again, we did 2 exclusive Patreon videos. This one, which was a pumpkin souffle recipe, which everybody here could attest to, did come out really good. And this was Taoist longevity breathing. And again, your veritable breath has more power than most people would realize in determining your ultimate, level of health. I mean, it's something as simple as breathing properly can change your life dramatically and perhaps even add many years of more quality life to your experience here embodied on Earth.
I just want to say a couple of things about this is oxygen. That's the first thing that we breathe when we come out. It helps us animate us separate from our mother. And this is something that people can do if they are bedridden, if they are just not well. They can at least do this and they can make the movements and make the breaths and they can make positive change.
Yeah, this type of modality with energy is not new. I mean, it's new to a lot of people, but this is like ancient stuff that has been around forever and a day and crosses different, geographic locations as well as cultures, as well as on and on and on. It's nothing new.
Nope, it's ancient, and so it shouldn't be feared. And I think sometimes people think, oh no, this is new age stuff, and no, it's actually ancient stuff that's been lost, and we're recovering it. And now our bodies, our minds, our ancestors are kind of poking at us saying, hey, let's bring this back in.
Absolutely. As I like to view it, it's leftover information from the previous bronze, silver, and gold ages. So it's stuff that could really, truly help us. Here you go. Eerie moment. World's first synthetic human robot twitches to life. Is that what you call it? We had mentioned before, we were having a discussion saying, at some point in time, humans are going to rise up. They're not going to join the militaries in numbers. They're not going to allow themselves to be drafted. They're not going to go along with things. Then what? And, will they roll out things like this? Are there already thousands or millions of these things hidden away somewhere in Antarctica beyond the ice wall? Ha ha ha. And this is kind of related there. Weird new computer runs AI on captive human brain cells. Australian startup Cortical Labs has launched what it's calling its world's first code deployable biological computer. It's a shoebox-sized device dubbed CL1. Notable departure from conventional computer, uses human brain cells to run fluid neural networks. Wow. So they made a big splash back in 2022 after teaching human brain cells in a petri dish how to play the video game Pong. I remember when I thought it was the best thing in the world, Pong. Yeah. The CL1, however, is fundamentally different approach. As New Atlas reports, it makes use of hundreds of thousands of tiny neurons, roughly the size of an ant brain each, which are cultivated inside a nutrient-rich solution and spread out across a silicon chip, according to the company's website. Through a combination of hard silicon and soft tissue, the company claims that owners can deploy code directly to the real neurons to solve today's most difficult challenges. A simple way to describe it would be like a body in a box, but it has filtration for waves. It has where the media is stored. It has pumps to keep everything circulating, gas mixing, and of course temperature control. Whether it will actually prove useful, that remains to be seen. And then how would they use it? That's really, really creepy.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I look at things like this and I think, well, wow, are they going to keep these brain cells alive forever? And if they can keep those brain cells alive forever in a day, that means we can keep our brain cells alive forever in a day. And death is not a thing. It never has been a thing. But I don't know. For me, I kind of like the natural cycles. I like to go around, and once this suit is done, I'm ready for a new one.
Well, I like to get new vehicles. I have liked to get new vehicles. I was saying to Joe, this is the longest I've held on to a vehicle, like 6 years, but I don't plan on changing it. And the body is only a vehicle. That's just the bottom line. The body doesn't develop our consciousness. It is a vehicle for our consciousness.
And let's not forget, we can prepare this body for our next body if we're good to it, and we cleanse it and we treat it well, treat our temples well. That's going to go on to the next.
Yeah, when I see things like the brain cell thing, I'm like, well, again, as we look back through history, I sit there and I ponder, like, if this is making it to the mainstream, how far ahead are they at this particular point in the military research, if you want to call it that? And then I start to think, wow, they had an episode on Star Trek about this years and years, decades ago, and so many things. It's just hilarious. All these programs come to my mind where I'm like, oh, I remember that episode of Star Trek where they did this, and this is the outcome. Again, they show us in plain sight, and so to me, it's not surprising, only because like I'm a Star Trek fan, and one of the ladies that I interviewed, Phyllis Schlemmer, a lot of the information actually came from her and her channeling, and it was a blessing to be able to discuss these things with her.
Definitely.
Meanwhile, the captain of that crashed cargo ship we were talking about turns out to be a Russian national. So this was the ship that crashed into a tanker carrying oil for U.S. military. Was this, again, an act of war? Because this is exactly the type of thing that happens when you're in a wartime scenario, which we basically are. So again, this was the ship, the MV So Long, that struck the tanker Stena Immaculate off Yorkshire coast on Monday. Yes. Speaking of, everything going on geopolitically, Portugal's government loses confidence vote, triggering early election amid prolonged instability. You're seeing that people are very unhappy with all the governments of the world, and this is perhaps one of the common things we can agree on, that the governmental systems, they leave an awful lot to be desired, unless you're one of the tiny group of illuminated ones, or they like to think of themselves as illuminated when really it's just darkness that controls their very existence. But here you go, you have a new election that likely will take place in May. You switch from one to another. So Trudeau goes, and then you're going to get another member of the few, so to speak, and nothing is going to really change there. It's just you're changing the figurehead. It's kind of like, changing one dress with vomit on it for another dress with vomit on it.
Ew.
Yummy.
I mean, that's just the reality of it. Here you have Serbia. You have students protesting for justice and freedom. And the mainstream, as we know, the lamestream news will always make it like, well, they want real freedom. They want to, join the European Union. Well, the European Union's going to collapse. This is just, you can see the signs of it right now. But ultimately, all these political structures are going to collapse. It's just a matter of time as people wake up. You have the EU, which obviously the leadership there seems to want to have a world war with Russia, and they are crushing whoever stands in their ways. So Kalin Georgescu, the People's Choice, was barred from running for president because he refused to be a puppet of Brussels, his crime opposing the EU's march towards war with Russia. Now Romania will be forced to comply whether its citizens want it or not. Again, now saying, that election didn't count. There was finagling going on. Well, maybe it was that there was a lack of finagling going on, and they're used to finagling things, so they come out the way they want them. Now, that's just my opinion, but, please do share yours. We'd like to hear. And they talk about democracy, which literally is mob rules. What is democracy? It's mob rules. So if the mob is misguided, then what do you have? Well, you have the current state of the world. Exactly, that's what we have. And see the common face there as she's pushing off for war. Well, give her a gun, stick her on the front line, and once something happens to her, then we'll talk and we'll put the next leader up on the front line. As Germany debates conscription, gender equality means women should be drafted to fight and die for their country. As girl bosses of Europe, von der Leyen and Baerbock call to fight until Russia is defeated. And that every woman, face conscription. So they're talking about drafting women in Germany, and meanwhile Poland is going to increase its military by 2.5 times. These leaders, in my opinion, should be arrested. I think it's obvious that they are only simply working for the military-industrial complex, and they have, I'm sure, tons of investments in not just the death machine, but also on every other industry that's going to make a ton of money off of people that are losing their lives and being maimed. This is how the system works. Meanwhile, they smile. And the threat of World War III looms larger than ever for the United States. Alarmingly, every Democrat in the House Armed Services Committee supports the draft for women in the U.S. We're talking age 18 to 25. Absolutely. We need to, again, take the victories where we can. So if you look at it from a libertarian point of view, we shouldn't have a military anywhere but on U.S. soil, protecting U.S. soil. I mean, that would be a step in the right direction, although I don't think there's any worthwhile system in place on Earth right now. Because what you do have, and by the way, when you look at how these leaders, let's see, if you look at these leaders, there was another article I was going to cover. They have a way of avoiding the drafts and getting their own children and family members out of the way of being drafted. It just goes all the way back to medieval times, where you would have royalty captured on the battlefield. Would they execute them? No, they'd marry off their kids together and go do it again. Draft an army of peasants to go and do all the dying and the bloodshed and carry out their will. Meanwhile, they never miss a beat with their roast beef and caviar.
No, and I think if we were able to have these leaders go and do what they want other people to do, that would solve the problem pretty quick.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder, what would it take in order for people, the whole way across the board, no matter what country, to just finally say enough is enough? And is what if they started to draft children, young children for the war, or grandparents that can hardly, even stand up, or, I'm just sitting there what will it take? How far are we willing to allow them to push us before we all? And I mean, some of us are already and have been standing up and putting a target on our backs for a good many years, but not everybody's willing to do that. And, I can see why. But it would be nice if everybody would stand together and just be okay, enough is enough. Let's change this system. Is it really going to require a divine intervention? I think it might, because I just don't know how else we're going to, come together and say, look, nobody wants this crap anymore.
Well, when there's one voice, there can be several voices, because we're up here pointing things out, and we have a lot of you guys supporting us, and it takes, a lot of people to join the awakening in some way, shape, or form. But I think that's how it's done. It's those doing it and those supporting who's doing it. We couldn't do this without all of you guys on that end, and I think we just need to keep the snowball getting bigger.
Yeah, if you really look into it, you could see all sorts of headlines from millennials and Generation Z opting not to participate in certain things, European soldiers quitting in record numbers. Again, dissolve NATO, but again, dissolve all these structures. This is really the key, and we will not have peace until all these structures are dissolved. National Archives and Records Administration, extractive registrant classification of record. This is 447, selective service numbers and all. As you see, Trump and Musk both dodged the draft. You see this time and time again. They're exempt. These people are always exempt because it's a club, and we're not part of that club, and they manipulate us from a distance. They stay free and clear. They tell us things like, your eyes are deceiving you, but we know, we're not that stupid. And some of us don't drink fluoridated water. Again, it's all coming out in the public for public consumption at this point in time. This was interesting too, because you could see ahead of it, trailing in front, you can see that shadow of a plane, which is kind of curious too. This is not different wind patterns. No, he's just emptied his load, and he's getting every little drop of that ball out there, barium, aluminum, and much more. There's so much technology out there, and Joe was talking about that. The reality is, how far ahead is it? It's tens of thousands of years. It's kind of beyond belief. That's how far ahead it truly is, because again, this has never been about Homo sapiens ruling Homo sapiens.
There's things out there that might look paranormal, but with this one, I am picking up a technology, and there is a difference. When you open up your energy body, you're able to get these things. Is it correct all the time? No. But when you have enough practice, you're able to create that discernment. And this one, to me, feels more like a technology, but that's not to say that our star families don't look similar and behave similar and deliberately show themselves to their humans.
Yeah, a lot of the things that we may see are reverse engineered technology, which if you even can get behind that, oh yeah, I can get behind that, well then we're not alone. I mean, the implications are huge just with that one concept. And on the other hand, I really think that there's layers of all this stuff. I think that some of it's reverse engineered, some of it's not ours. Depending on your vantage point, what does that mean? Again, if you look into the deeper meanings of each one of these, it's like, oh, okay, so if it's not ours, then whose is it? Okay, that means we're not alone in the universe. If we have this technology that we're not aware of, where is it? Like, who's running it? Is there a break-off civilization type thing, that Richard Dolan talks about? There's a lot of implications for all of this that's right before our eyes, and we're seeing it. And if our government comes out and says, well, that's not us, and we're not doing that. Okay, well then who is it? Talk about, they're always bringing up national security. Oh, we got to do this, or we got to not do that because of that, the old chestnut, oh, it's against national security.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, again, as they roll all these things out, we have to choose to not conform to them, not give our power away, and think of alternatives. Again, barter and trade, think out of the box. Some areas are going to have more freedoms than others. It's really a time where people have to make a long, hard decision. I've heard many people say, oh, I can't possibly, move or leave my job or this or that. Well, you really could. You could do anything. I mean, there's nothing that really stops you but you. That's just the reality of it, even though people don't want to think of it in those terms. I know I've done it. I've basically have nothing but a cheap little car at one point in time when I was in my 40s, leaving everything down to, everything. There was nothing left but a car that lasted 6 months before it died. But I knew I had to go into a different situation. My destiny was not in that particular time frame that was being manifested. I had to reach out and reach people, because that's why I incarnated. It was all about this time, to try to awaken the planet, to awaken as many people as possible to the system that has been limiting them, because we don't have to have this type of world situation. We don't have to have nonstop war. That's just a construct of the control system, which manifests, it masquerades. It manifests all these wars and disasters one after another, masquerading as having your interest in mind, but nothing is further from the truth. All they have in mind is their own self-serving interests. So again, we're not going to get any real change with the system that's in place. And again, there's never been any sort of violent, bloody revolution that lasts, gives you a lasting peace. It's really a revolution of thought and a revolution of consciousness itself, and the way that we actually view the world, that's going to shift things. So really what we need to do is to create an all-new paradigm in which the individual is empowered to make their own decisions.
I gotta say, I want to speak for a minute on this time frame between the ages of 36 and 42, and it can be a little bit later because nothing is exact. But when we do go through these awakenings and we realize that you have to change something in your life, that can be the hardest thing that people ever deal with. And I know Mike's done it, I've done it, Joe he's doing it, and you have to make those hard-nosed decisions, and it changes you. It changes who you are completely, but it's supposed to. So if you're going through that, no matter how hard it is, know that you're being molded, you're being shaped, you're going through an awakening. Find someone who can help support you in that. Find someone, that's done it, and let them help walk you through it. But there is a difference between, helping and then being relied upon in a negative way. But boy, those decisions, when you are called to change your life and move directions, man, it can be hard. It can, put people in the hospital. It is no joke. It's no joke. Awakening is real.
It's funny. People call it a midlife crisis, and I don't think it's age dependent. I think if you follow your heart and you're willing to pivot. I had what many would have said was everything. I had the urgent care centers and employees. I had a construction business, and I had all the toys, the snowmobiles, four-wheelers. I had new backhoes and dump trucks and all the things But, at one point I said, that's it, I'm done. I went out of this rat race. This was like around 2011 around 2011. And I just said, that's it, I'm done. I'm closing everything up. And of course my family all thought I was crazy and like, oh my God, what happened? And you know what I did? Talk about having trust in the universe. I literally pulled out the map of the United States. I closed my eyes and I started circling my finger around, and I put it down on the map. And I looked down and it said New Mexico. And I thought, what? I'm moving to New Mexico? And I thought, that can't be right. So I kind of, moved the map around, and with my eyes closed, and I did it again, and I circled, and dang, holy hell, I'm going to New Mexico. Like, this is, like, I thought, okay. So I trusted in my higher self, and, I knew I needed to get away from the people, places, and things that was holding me back from my highest potential. And even though I love my family, so when Mike was saying that you have a choice, I literally gave up everything in order to raise my vibration, in order to trust in the universe, in order to, become my greatest self, I guess you could say. And I'm still working on it, and I'm finding myself ready to pivot again. And so, we're not just talking about these things because we have heard it somewhere or have seen it in the news. These are personal experiences that I can tell you right now that when I say you can do it if you want to, we always make excuses that, oh, we can't do it because of whatever. If you truly want whatever, you can make it happen and manifest it. And I know I'm living proof. I've been up and down, throughout my life. And depending from what vantage point you come from, if you're talking to somebody that's spiritually enlightened, has already been down this path a few times, that's all they see is this, you're just on your path. Whereas if you're coming from a third dimensional point of reference going, oh my God, he went crazy, he lost his mind, or, who does that? And again, it comes down to vantage point. But I would say that, there is no limit, really. It's not even sky's the limit. If you can dream it, you can do it, you can be it. You just head in that direction. And it's all about focused intention, focused thought.
It is, and I think it's interesting that a lot of our journey too went into New Mexico for a little while, and it was probably the most beautiful time of my life to go run around and travel and be with friends and get to know people similar to me. But yeah, we have all given up something and then continue to give up because we've decided to be that highest version of ourselves, and that's what more can you do in this lifetime besides allow yourself to rise up to your highest potential? I think that's the biggest gift you can give to yourself and your higher self.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've shared with you guys, like many years earlier in meditation, I had a vision of what I interpreted as certain Native American lineage of mine. And what they showed me was that when the bleep hits the fan, they wanted me to go to New Mexico. And that was like a long time ago. And, I never really had so much of that desire to do it. But that's exactly what we did. And it was kind of out in the New Mexico desert that we had our deepest meditations. And we really kind of achieved a certain level of connection with the guides. It wasn't that we had to stay there forever, but it was a key point in our life. So, I've had that happen to me before multiple times where I thought I was settling in, and then I'd be there in meditation, and all of a sudden I would get the message that you're going to have to do this now. And it's hearing that, and people will think you're crazy, but the reality is, no, those things come from the higher self. So if you are, again, fully in the system and you're not clearing your temple, you probably have a much lesser chance of hearing these type of messages.
Well, we got to know each other in the desert, and we got to bond in the desert, and we found understanding in one another in the desert. So I think the desert brought us a lot of upgrades and downloads that we still can't even see. They're still unraveling because of our higher selves and our higher calling. That's still to be seen, and it's been a beautiful, interesting road.
Yeah, so I know I've spoken about this before. Different places on the planet have different energies, and you're drawn to that particular location where what you need. And New Mexico, in and of itself, is a fiery energy. There's so many volcanoes that are inactive, but yet, if you just travel around, you'll see the cone-shaped traditional volcanoes all over the place. You'll see lava fields, and it's a fiery energy. I could feel it. In fact, I had so much energy when I went there. That was part of my transformation. I had to work out twice a day, every day, because I couldn't sleep. I'd get up, go to the gym, I'd go to work, I'd come home, I'd work out again, and I'd, do videos, or I'd travel a little bit to put some videos out for people, and I'd go to bed at 11 o'clock at night, and I'd be back up at 5. And I just had so much energy. It was, if you've never traveled, you might not know this, but I know, when I went to Laughlin, Nevada, or East Eddy Ranch, or there's a vortex in Oklahoma called the 40-foot hole, and it's not quite as big of a vortex as, say, Sedona, but it's still large enough. When you go, you'll experience a lot of cool things. And again, just from me traveling, being drawn to these places because I wanted to experience the energy. And once you start to tune into it, you become aware, like, wow, there are different places that are dense, more dense and it's lower and it feels like, ooh, I don't like this energy. Or you'll be in this super high vibration where you're like, oh my gosh, this is just too high, or it's this up and down. And what you learn to do is try to stay in a balanced state no matter where you are. And it can still be challenging because this planet, like I said, of different people, places, and things, it can either lift you or bring you down.
Right, and then it's up to you to go within and find that balance. A lot of times external things in our lives can dictate how we feel, but we really have to move things around and adjust the inside of ourselves to deal with the outside, because we can't control things on the outside of us, but we can control ourselves.
Absolutely. So, as always, guys, look forward to your comments. Thanks for being part of the family. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and come join us on Patreon as well for exclusive videos. We'll be working on more along those energy work mastery lines. As always, also, we encourage you to go ahead and subscribe over at Dr. Joe's Guiding Light and his other channel, Universal Talking, as it's getting ready to go over 800 subscribers there and to break 3 digits over here. And at some point in time, we'll be doing lives over there as well. Look forward to your comments. Source bless and namaste.
Wait. What? So we're thinking we might try to go live on the full moon on Joe's channel and try to bump that up, move people up. I just wanted to say it now so people can maybe go over and subscribe. And when you spell light, it's L-I-T-E at the end, a guiding light.
Yeah, so, I used to do this all the time, and again, it's been years since I, went live, and aside from being on your channel and, tuning in there, it was fun, and it'll be nice to kind of get back into the groove of things. And, I did start doing some videos and posting them, and, in a small way. Eventually, I can see myself transitioning and doing more and more of that, and, I really would like to relaunch the Universal Talk again. I really enjoyed interviewing people, all walks of life, all over the planet, and they would come and they would give their testimony. And again, it's just pieces to that puzzle, putting it all together for people that don't want to hear it from one individual person. You hear it from these experts, like whether it be astronauts or, judges or lawyers or doctors or whoever it is that comes on the show that have had an awakening, that's just like, okay, this is my experience, and take it for what it is. Here it is in front of you. And then again, you just put these pieces to the puzzle together. So yeah, I look forward to that going live on the full moon, which we can talk about all that too. Maybe in another video leading up to that. So, and is that the 14th or 14th. The 14th? Today's the 11th. 12th. Oh, today's so in 2 days. Awesome. So we'll get prepared for that. That'll be fun. And I think people like the live. So
yes, they're a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.